Is the original It miniseries from 1990 as bad as people are saying it is? Let's take a look back and find out. What's up guys, this is Two Cool Reviews, and today we're taking a look at the original It miniseries from 1990 based on the Stephen King novel. And with the new film currently in theaters, I wanted to take a look back at the original miniseries and see if it holds up, or if it is as bad as people are saying it is. Now this series currently has a lot of people divided about whether it's good or not, because those who don't like it are saying it's terrible, and the people who do like it and defend it are simply blinded by nostalgia. And those who are a fan of the original miniseries are saying, you know, people are tearing it down because you have a new film now, and every time something new comes out, you have to go back and tear down the original or the one that came before it, you know, yada, yada, yada. We've seen this before with Amazing Spider-Man and the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man, as well as Homecoming. And, you know, I just think it's a trend that's going on right now, and we're going to really take a look at the film and see if it holds up over time, or whether people are really being blinded by nostalgia. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the novel or the original miniseries, the story follows 7 kids who live in Derry, Maine, and they're being terrorized by an evil entity that takes the form of a clown called Pennywise, and he mainly targets children, and he preys upon their fears, and he projects himself as the thing that you're most afraid of. And on top of this, you also have the adults in the town where they don't really see the effects of the clown or the entity outside of children going missing or bodies being found here and there. They don't see, you know, the effects that the kids are seeing. So the kids are kind of alone in this, and they have to combat this evil on their own. And, you know, it's a good coming of age story, and you get to see the kids bond and, you know, work together and, you know, really dig deep to be brave and confront something that most people would be afraid of, you know, even as adults. Now, first I wanted to talk about some of the positives about the series, and one of the biggest positives is Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise. Like, he gives a brilliant performance. He really is the most entertaining aspect of the story, and while I wouldn't go as far as saying his performance was scary or terrifying, it was very entertaining, very iconic, very memorable, and in a lot of ways it was very creepy. So I feel like with it being for TV, they chose to focus on being creepy and disturbing in psychological ways more so than visual horror and, you know, actually showing graphic images and stuff, because it's a TV miniseries, so it's restricted. You can't show anything like that on daytime TV. So they obviously have restrictions going into the project, and I feel like with those restrictions they still managed to make a very good adaptation of the novel and stay true to the novel in a lot of ways. And Tim Curry is one of the best things about it. The scene where he's talking to Georgie from the sewer, that's one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, and one of the most memorable scenes from the series in general. You know, most people who, when they think of It, the miniseries, they think of the scene where he's talking to Georgie. It keeps you on the edge of your seat when you're watching it, because going in, I didn't know anything about the miniseries. I can't remember how old I was when I originally saw it, but I didn't know anything about what it was based on or the source material, so it was all fresh for me, and I had no idea they was going to show. I mean, they don't really show it, but I had no idea that the kid was going to be killed off that early in the movie. And as a kid, yeah, that's what that, you know, leaves an impact on you. But as an adult, you know, you need a little bit more. But like I said, I feel like that scene overall really stands out. Another positive I would add would be the kids. You know, they had really great chemistry. You had good casting all around for the kid counterparts. Jonathan Brandis as Bill, I feel like he was one of the best characters in the series, even though I genuinely like all the characters for the most part. I feel like for the portion of the story that focused on the kids, they really did a good job of balancing between the kids for the most part, and you really get to know everybody. You get to know their motivations, their fears, and what drives them, and, you know, really brings them together. And what really brings them together as a group, and you can relate to them. You know, everybody has something you can relate to with these kids in some way or another, I feel like. I think the series does a great job of portraying Bill as the sympathetic leader of the kids, and you really feel for the character as you see him deal with the loss of his brother, and that really makes it more personal for him than it is for the other kids, because he's the only person who's genuinely lost something to the clown. Everyone else is being terrorized by it, but he's lost his younger brother, and that is what kind of pushes him into the role of the leader and the big brother of the group per se. And I feel like Jonathan Brandis did a great job of portraying that. Now they go by the name of the losers because they all are in some way bullied by Henry Bowers and his group of friends, and I feel like the series does a great job of fleshing those characters out as well as, and also sticking to their traits from the novel as well. You really get to see Henry mentally devolve over the course of the series, and you really see why he is becoming more and more sinister and sadistic towards these kids. It goes from simple threatenings of beatings and things like that to him pulling out switchblades and throwing rocks and really wanting to hurt these kids, you know, and ultimately it leads to him seeing murder as his only solution for dealing with these group of kids. And, you know, you see the influence of the clown over him as well, and, you know, his friends, they, just like in the novel, they're loyal to him, but they're also afraid of him. So, you know, they try to tell him he's going too far, but, you know, they're not going to step up and stand up to him and make him stop. So I feel like the series did a great job of bringing all of that from the novel onto the screen. Now, one of the biggest complaints about this series is the adult portion of the film, and we'll get to that. But I do want to give them some praise because they did do a good job with casting. A lot of the characters look like the adult versions of the kid actors who played them, and they really do sell the idea that they are friends reuniting and remembering each other. And they also do a great job of portraying the trauma that they go through when they have to remember their childhood and all the things that they forgot. I think they really do an excellent job of portraying just how much these characters dread returning to their hometown and having to face this evil again that they completely forgot about. And you really feel for them when they, you know, when they're kind of forced into the situation and they're trying to do the right thing by honoring the promise that they made as children. And like I said, it was kind of cool to follow that and see that play out in some regards, and especially if you're a fan of the novel, to get to see a lot of the things from the original book make it into the series. The series also does a good job of representing the 50s. You know, that's the time period that it takes place in when they were kids. It's 1957 and 58, I believe, and you really feel like, you know, you're in a small town in the 1950s. The kids dress like, you know, kids would dress from the 1950s. And lastly, I think the music was pretty good, especially for the time period. It really, now that's something that's nostalgic for me, you know, hearing the original themes and, you know, music from the series. But like I said, I like it. I feel like it still fits the film in most ways. Some parts it gets kind of cheesy, but overall, I would say the music was pretty good. Now let's jump into some of the negatives about the series. As I said before, Pennywise was not really scary in this. Now don't get me wrong, there are genuinely creepy scenes and a lot of, you know, a lot of situations that you wouldn't want to find yourself in personally. A couple of the scenes featuring Beverly, you know, when she's in the bathroom and she hears the voices coming from the sink. Yeah, that's creepy. And, you know, him kind of taunting her, telling her, oh, you'll die if you try. Yes, that's genuinely creepy, but you know, it's not the worst thing that can happen, you know, especially when you compare it to films like Nightmare on Elm Street or, you know, even a newer film where he's literally chasing kids and pursuing them. That's a lot scarier than a guy in a clown suit kind of standing in the doorway taunting you or, you know, making jokes and references and things like that. It's just not that scary, and I feel like the film kind of fell flat in that regard. Well, it doesn't hurt his performance, but, you know, the movie overall would have been a lot stronger if you actually had some level of fear, you know, in regards to the clown or the entity. And sticking with the clown, the effects haven't really aged that well. The scene where the kids confront him in the sewers and, you know, they shoot him in the head with a piece of silver, and for some reason they chose to go with a light being inside of his head, and, you know, he turns into a clay animation figure and, you know, does a roundhouse flip and hops into a hole and goes down the drain. That just, it really looks bad currently. It's a memorable scene, but, you know, the effects are definitely, you know, not aging well at all. And the same goes for the spider in the second part of the series. It just looks kind of silly. For me personally, I think the eyes are what make it look kind of silly. It really looks like a bad animatronic / puppet or something like that. The eyes just make it look silly for me personally. I feel like if the eyes were a little more intimidating, that might have helped, but overall the thing just kind of looks confused, and especially when they get to running around pushing it over and everything, it looks really silly. Now, to address the negatives pertaining to the adults, I would have to say the dialogue is probably the biggest obstacle for them. A lot of the dialogue is just bad overall, and two scenes stand out particularly. The scene where Beverly is kind of questioning why is it so mean and stuff like that is just like, yeah, that doesn't really translate well. And the scene where Eddie is, he's got up the courage to go and confront the spider, similar to how he confronted the clown when he was a kid with his his asthma pump, and he just starts talking about how he believes in the Tooth Fairy and things like that. It's just the delivery was pretty bad, but honestly, I don't even think A-list actors would have been able to pull off some of the dialogue from the adult part of the series. But honestly, a lot of the second part of the series featuring the adults, it feels pretty cheesy in a lot of ways. The music is just kind of cheesy, and you get a little montages here and there. You got a silly scene with Bill riding Silver again, and like I said, it all just, I get what they were going for, and in some way that kind of translates, but at the same time it's still really cheesy, and I can understand a lot of people just kind of rolling their eyes at that part. I can deal with it. I like the series, but I definitely understand a lot of the complaints and problems people have with that part of the series. The last big negative I can say would be the final confrontation with It was really underwhelming. It's kind of anticlimactic, and you just, I don't know. I don't know how they could have improved on it. Hopefully the new film improves on it when they get to that part in the second chapter of the story. But just seeing a group of people running up on the spider animatronic, punching and tearing it up is just like, I felt like it was stronger as the clown, and the clown really didn't do anything. So that says a lot. General consensus really seems to be that the second part of the series is where everything pretty much falters and kind of nosedives. But I don't think it's the worst, but it definitely could be improved. There's a lot of opportunity for improvement, I'll say that. Overall, I still like the original miniseries. I really think it's entertaining. Tim Curry and the kids are by far the best parts about it, and while there's some enjoyment to be had in the second half, it really doesn't play out as strong as the first part, and I feel like that's what really brings down the series overall for a lot of people. So with that said, I'm going to have to give the original It miniseries a 6 out of 10. There is some entertainment to be had, mainly in the beginning, and Tim Curry, he's Tim Curry. I don't think you can watch Tim Curry and not enjoy it. That's all I got on the original miniseries, guys. Let me know what you guys thought of it down in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you looking forward to the new film? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Next is my review for the film that's currently in theaters. So if you want to check that out, subscribe. And make sure you click the bell icon so you get alerts for all my future videos. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at 2coolreviews. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.